Nancy Tapia from LRM Online, Latino Review Media. Pleasure to speak to you today.
Hi, thank you. Nice to see you.
Likewise. Well, today we get to talk about this new project you did direct, the Virtuoso, which I really love the title.
Thanks. It was a play, we did a little fun play on words there because most people immediately think of orchestral or a musical talent, but he's a virtuoso. They're all virtuosos of death, which is what I kind of like, but it was never used or hasn't been used for 50 years. So it was a good title and a little bit of misdirection from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. It sounds very rich too.
Yeah, you're right. That's what you think of. You think of the, I don't know, Carnegie Hall or some kind of prestigious, institution when you just hear that title. So it worked for us for good reasons. And I'm glad Lionsgate kept it. There's always a conversation once you get in distribution as to what'll play, but there was really no discussion about it. They liked it too. So
it's definitely worse for Latin America.
Good, great.
Well, let's talk about you in this part. You get to direct the film. I mean, based on the history of yours, this was up your alley.
It was exactly up my alley, also just because the genesis of it was based loosely on the last project I had actually directed, because, I produce and direct. And I had directed a picture called Good Day for it 10 years ago that was similar, but the twist was that in that movie, a guy that's thought to be a bad man had to leave town and comes back, and fate would have it that he shows up at this diner when the guys he was running from show up too. So it was a ticking clock kind of thriller. And I always wondered, like, what would happen if that guy had actually been a bad man? Mm-hmm. And he was a bad man trying to go good, and fate intervenes. And so I called James Wolfe, who wrote Good Day for it with me as well. And I told him the premises. I said, look, why don't we do a different version of that kind of setup? Because I'm really character-driven director and actor-driven director. And two of my movies were plays. So that's what I just generate too. Though I love everything. I mean, I love big Marvel movies and big action too, but it's not something I would immediately react to as a director. So that's what the start was. And that's, so basically we created it to be right up my alley, really, as a filmmaker.
It is. Now let's talk about the cast. You were involved in the casting part, I imagine, as the director. And how did you know that in this case, Anson was the one to play the Virtuoso?
Well, I had met Anson Mount 10 years prior to that as well for another project of mine that still hasn't shot, in New York through my casting director. And I had seen him on Broadway in a play, Corpus Christi, and I just knew he was talented. And then when I met him, it was great. And I was like, it's not his fault he's so handsome, right? And so I was like, he needs to be a movie star to me, plus he's, as a trained actor, he's rock solid, always would do theater still. And so when I saw he was on the list and his agents were interested, I immediately went to him, and we met again, and we remembered that meeting from long ago. And so he was the first, actor in, and the rest came through really his UTA, which was his agency. He was very helpful. They really liked the script. And then Abbie Cornish came on. And lastly, I just still can't believe really that I got Anthony Hopkins, but I asked my covering agent if there was a prayer that I could get one of these legendary guys, because we needed him for 3 days, but he's integral to the movie, And they said, there's a chance if Tony likes material, he will be interested. So I was like, why not? Never thinking that I would get that call. And I did. And it was great. Just a tremendous working with him.
What was it like to work with him? I mean, getting to direct Anthony Hopkins?
I would really try to come up with something fantastic to say to make myself look great or something, but I can't. The guy, we had 2 phone conversations for a couple hours, previously, and he had dissected the character. He has a a 7-page soliloquy early in the movie, in the first act, that clearly he was interested in doing the movie for. And he had a couple minor comments only, even to the minute, do you mind if I change the to them and stuff, that small. And I was like, no, of course not. And when we finally got to meet, it was like we'd known each other for years. When he got on set, everybody was actually more respectful for him than he wanted them to be. He's like, just call me Tony. And so I couldn't think of anything negative to say about him. Just led by example. Was Anson and him got along great, and he's been really supportive. So everything you might have heard on the positive side about him is true. So
great. Well, for his scenes and Anson together, they had some long dialogue take place.
They did, and I remember after the first day, unfortunately, the very first thing we shot was the cemetery, which was to me the most complicated. I mean, massively, important, right? I mean, heavy weight. And when Anthony came out of the trailer, dressed in character, because I mean, he was 80, 81 and a half at the time, and I don't remember things I said yesterday, let alone 7 pages of dialogue and action. And man, we were mesmerized. I remember first shot was a wide shot over Anson's shoulder of Anthony. And after I finally cut after about 3.5 minutes or so, something, and he turned around, Anson Mount turned around and looked at me, and he goes, yeah, that was pretty good. And so I was like, yes, I think we're in good shape here. So, but, true to his credit, Anson, after that very first moment, realized he's in the movie too, and he's the lead. And he, held his own. And I remember them talking about that, and Tony just really trying to calm everybody down and just go, I'm just an actor like you are. And so it was great, and they got along really well, and they're still friends today. So I'm glad about that.
That's great. He sounds like a very humble man.
Yeah, absolutely. Too, as you probably see now, he's, instead of buying into all the Oscar hype, he's back in Wales at his childhood home, just kind of hanging out on Instagram, entertaining people with his cat, basically. So that's all he does. He's exactly like that.
Oh, I see. I have my cat in that corner sleeping.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what about the character for the waitress, Abbie?
That was, that's a difficult part. And I was impressed with her. I mean, I saw her first in A Good Year, the Ridley Scott picture with Russell Crowe, and she played American. And at that time, years ago, I did not notice she was Australian. So I always look for, actors that can handle a wide range, because as a director, especially when you're producing, directing, co-writing, and you have a small budget and a small schedule, that you have to feel confident that the actor is going to take care of themselves primarily as well, right? And you're there to help them on the day of. You're mostly just there to keep them in line with where their part is in the movie at that time, especially when you shoot out of sequence. And I knew I'd seen a short that she had done in Australia then, where we completely no makeup, a mother with a little kid. So almost a different entity, not just a different character. So when her name was in the original list at UTA, I was like, yeah, I'd be interested in that, because as you know, with these kind of movies where there is a kind of a trick ending, you only have to keep the audience a little bit interested, so they recognize Anson. You recognize Abbie Cornish from something somewhere, but it's not like you would have had a movie star in those parts where you're immediately, in my respect, you're immediately taken out because something more is going to happen with that person, just because it's, the actor, right? And so I thought they were just great. And, that part was really tough because she has to play 90% of it actually acting like somebody else within a movie that she's acting in. So we had those conversations early, but I think people fall in love with her just at the right time. And then I'm getting a lot of good feedback that they don't see the end coming, which is great. You know, it's exactly what we wanted.
I'm one of them.
Oh, really?
I was like, why is he questioning? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, no spoilers, but yes, I was one of them.
Great. Well, and, you know, because, you know, we've all seen the same movie, the same story multiple times. So it's all in the ride that you're particularly taking. And I think with the quality of that supporting cast, you're always surprised. You're always misdirected, which was my key. And even the end, when we think he's cleaned up everything and maybe or maybe not, he's going to have something to talk to the mentor about now. The waitress and him come back, and you're like, what is exactly happening? I'm not sure how, you know, this is going to play out. And so, you know, for me, that's the best kind of positive feedback I could get.
Yes, and people, it's not your typical Hitman movie. We have to address that this is different. I myself loved it and was looking forward to it because I like the Hitman movies. I'm the classic The Professional. I mean, ever since. I mean, we gotta love
Right.
these.
Absolutely, but that's you're exactly right there, because we need to separate a little bit from the conventional Hitman movie, which some people will think. Hopefully, when they see this cast all the way, they'll you know, give it a little extra, you know, importance, and maybe just take a shot, because if you watch it in the first act, you know you're in a different movie. And that was the purpose for the opening sequence, which normally would be a title sequence. The whole very beginning, I wanted to confuse people right off the bat to think it was just going to be another assassin who goes around killing people. But then that turns immediately to a character-driven story, you know, and that's what I'm strongest with. So I was glad, you know, you got that, and I appreciate you watching it.
Of course. Thank you so much for your time and good luck.
Thank you. Nice to see you.